The marble lobby went silent when the billionaire laughed and said, "A receptionist doesn't belong in this room." Clara Hayes stood behind the front desk, one hand resting on the phone, the other touching the small silver locket at her throat. Why did she stay calm while everyone watched? Why did the hotel's general manager suddenly stop smiling when her line began to ring? And why did one quiet call make a man with more money than mercy step backward, as if the floor had moved beneath him? Before the night ended, the room would learn that the person they dismissed had been carrying the one truth no contract could erase. The phone rang once, and no one moved. Clara Hayes kept her hand beside the receiver, not on it, not yet. The lobby of the Grayhaven Grand held its breath. Crystal glasses stopped halfway to mouths. The brass elevator doors stood open behind a family that no longer stepped out. Near planters, a violinist let one note fade like a thread snapping. Preston Vale's laugh still hung in the air. "A receptionist," he said, turning toward the investors beneath the chandelier, "is now telling us who belongs in a private strategy room." A few guests smiled because they thought they were supposed to. Martin Keene smiled first, then glanced at Clara with a warning hidden inside it. "Ms. Hayes," Martin said, "step away from the desk." Clara's fingertips rested on the counter. The marble was cold through her palm. Her silver locket pressed against her throat beneath her black uniform. "I'm still on duty," she said. Preston leaned closer, smelling of wool, mint, and cigar smoke. "Your duty is to make keys, answer phones, and keep the people who matter comfortable." Across the lobby, Ruth Bell stood with her towel cart beside the fountain. Andre Mills lowered his eyes. Paige Larkin stood at the second terminal, her name badge crooked, lips pressed around words she did not dare use. The phone rang again. Martin's jaw tightened. "Do not answer that." Clara turned slightly. "Is that an instruction from management?" "It is common sense," Martin said. "You have embarrassed this property enough tonight." Preston gave a quiet breath. There. Finally. Celia Ward moved in from the event corridor, champagne dress catching the light, headset wire tucked behind one ear. "Everyone, please. The tasting menu is waiting. There's no need to give a small staffing issue an audience." "A staffing issue?" Paige whispered. Martin heard her. "Paige." The young receptionist flinched as if her name had been dropped onto glass. Clara looked at her, only for a second. Paige straightened her badge with two shaking fingers. Preston tapped the counter with a gold ring. "Who authorized this woman to block my access?" Clara opened the black binder. The paper whispered against the marble. "The updated authorization list did." He laughed again, shorter this time. "Then the list is wrong." "It may be inconvenient," Clara said. "That's different." Leonard Brooks shifted his weight. A woman beside him lowered her phone. The fountain kept pouring water over black stone. Martin stepped behind the desk, crossing into the narrow staff space. "Clara, this is your final warning." She did not move. The scent of lemon polish rose from the counter. The lobby lights reflected in her terminal screen. Preston's bright face, Martin's shoulder, and the red line of the ringing phone. The third ring came. This time, the sound changed the room. Not louder, cleaner. Preston looked at the receiver, then at Martin. "Why is no one answering?" Martin swallowed. His smile collapsed at the edges. Clara lifted the receiver before he could reach across her. "Front desk, Grayhaven Grand," she said. A woman's voice came through after one thin click. "Put me on loudspeaker, Ms. Hayes." Clara pressed the button. The red light came alive. Martin took one step back. At 5:42 p.m., Clara Hayes pushed through the staff entrance with snowmelt darkening her black shoes. The service hallway smelled of floor wax, coffee, and damp wool. A laundry cart rattled below the stairs. Pipes clicked with old heat. Clara removed her coat and stopped by the dented mirror near the time clock. The uniform made her smaller in other people's eyes. Black jacket, white blouse, name tag. No jewelry except the silver locket beneath her collar. She touched it once. "Evening, Miss Clara," Ruth Bell said from the housekeeping closet. She was 62, narrow-shouldered, with silver hair pinned tight and towels pressed to one hip. "You're early." "Only by 18 minutes. That's early enough to ask favors." Clara took the top bundle. "Then I should hide." Ruth almost laughed. "Not tonight. They've got half the city upstairs pretending shrimp on toast is dinner." Music from the ballroom drifted down, strings and applause mixed with rolling trays. "Any changes?" Clara asked. Ruth's hand tightened. "2 girls from banquet got sent home." "Who?" "Lena and Marisol. Celia said their shoes weren't polished enough." "They were on the schedule." "They still are." Ruth lowered her voice. "That's the strange part." Clara crossed to the clipboard. Lena Ortiz, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Marisol Dean, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. No replacements. The service door opened, and Andre Mills came in with umbrellas and a wet valet coat. At 27, he had the careful walk of a man trained to avoid being in anyone's way. His badge swung from a loose pin. "Front drive is backed up to Queen Street," he said. "Mr. Keene wants everyone smiling like rain is our idea." "It's snow," Ruth said. "Not if guests complain." Clara lifted the schedule from its hook. A thin page slid from behind it and floated to the tile. It was a complaint log cover sheet. The staple mark was torn. Page 2 was missing. Andre stared at the gap. "That was full yesterday." "Full of what?" He rubbed his thumb over the badge pin. "Names. Dates. Things people say when uniforms don't hear." Ruth shifted closer, her cartwheel squeaking once. "Don't ask him here." A kitchen runner passed with a tray of ice, eyes forward, pretending not to listen. The cold brushed Clara's wrist. She folded the cover sheet and slipped it into her pocket. "Who had access?" "Management," Andre said. "Event office. Security, maybe." "Maybe." "Victor keeps keys to rooms he doesn't use." The wall phone buzzed. Ruth nearly dropped the towels. Clara picked it up. "Service corridor." Martin Keene's voice arrived smooth and clipped. "Ms. Hayes, you are due at the front desk." "I'm on my way." "Now, and tonight. Remember, this property has guests whose expectations are above ordinary procedure." She looked at the torn staple mark peeking from her pocket. "Understood." "And Clara?" "Yes, Mr. Keene." "No improvising." The line clicked dead. Andre exhaled. That's what he says before something goes wrong. Clara hung up carefully. She adjusted her collar until the locket disappeared again, then took the staff elevator toward the lobby. As the doors closed, Ruth's towel cart squeaked, and Clara saw Lena and Marisol's names scratched from the board in pencil. By 6:18, the ballroom doors were open, and the Grayhaven Grand began to sound expensive. Glassware clicked in rows. A pianist tested 3 notes. Warm air from chandeliers pressed against the cold following each guest through the doors. Clara stood at the front desk with Paige, checking room cards while garlic drifted from the passage. "Don't look tired," Celia Ward called from the center of the lobby. No one had said they were. Celia moved down the staff line with a tablet and a headset wire against her cheek. "Tonight is not a night for personality. You are fixtures. Fixtures do not interrupt." Andre, beside the luggage stand, adjusted his badge. Celia saw it. Mr. Mills, if that badge falls again, a guest may think we hire people who cannot fasten metal to cloth. It won't fall. Then prove it quietly. Ruth passed behind the floral screen with towels, moving slowly because speed invited notice. Martin Keene stepped from the private elevator. "Staff," Martin said. The fountain hushed beneath him. "At 8, Mr. Preston Vale arrives. His comfort reflects directly on this property's future. No one discusses schedules, complaints, missing shifts, or internal matters with guests. If a question feels difficult, bring it to me. If you are unsure whether to breathe, do it elsewhere." A few people laughed. The sound died quickly. Clara placed key sleeves into the drawer. "Will Lena and Marisol be replaced?" Martin's eyes moved to her. They were released from tonight's assignment. The schedule still lists them. Then the schedule is catching up. Paige's fingers stopped over the keyboard. Celia stepped closer. "Clara, your desk faces the lobby. That means your questions do too. I'm asking because Banquet is short." "Banquet will manage," Martin said. "You will manage the desk." Andre's badge slipped again. He caught it against his chest. The clasp made a snap. Martin heard it. "Andre, come here." Andre crossed the rug. Martin straightened the badge himself. "You represent our first impression." "Yes, sir." First impressions do not fidget. Andre's jaw worked once. "Yes, sir." A guest in a green dress paused near the fountain, pretending to admire flowers. From the event corridor, Naomi Price appeared with a slim folder and a navy coat over her arm. She was 34, with close-cut curls and glasses on her head. She stopped at the desk. "Clara Hayes?" Clara nodded. "Revised board materials for Mr. Keene." Martin crossed back too quickly. "Ms. Price, I didn't expect legal until tomorrow." "Plans changed. I'll take those." Naomi held the folder 1 second longer than politeness required. "These include the updated authorization list." The word settled lightly, but Clara felt Martin's attention shift. Naomi released the folder, then placed a small white envelope near Clara's keyboard. "Front office copy." Celia's headset crackled. "Investor cars in 20. Martin tucked the folder under his arm. "Everyone to position. Invisible service is memorable service." Clara opened the envelope below the counter. Inside was one printed page and a yellow sticky note. "Audit line active. Use only if protocol is blocked." She slid it beneath the keyboard as a black car stopped outside. At 7:03 p.m., the first black car rolled under the canopy, and the lobby changed its posture. Andre stepped outside before the tires stopped. Celia touched her headset and lifted 2 fingers toward the violinist. The music softened. Martin crossed the rug with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Clara stayed behind the desk. Preston Vale entered in a charcoal overcoat, tall, broad, silver-haired, with a red scarf at his throat. 2 assistants followed with folders. Leonard Brooks came in behind them. "Mr. Vale," Martin said, "welcome back to Grayhaven." "Back? That depends on what your board signs tonight. We intend to make you feel at home." "Then start by getting me into the council room." Celia glided forward. "Of course, champagne service is ready." Preston's gaze passed over her and landed on Clara's name tag. "Clara," he said, as if trying the name on a coin. "Print our badges." Clara opened the authorization binder. "May I see your party list, please?" One assistant handed it over. Clara checked each name. Preston Vale, Leonard Brooks, 2 aides, Celia Ward, Martin Keene. Then she reached the final page and paused. "The council room requires separate authorization after 7, she said. Martin's smile thinned. I have Mr. Vale with me. Yes, Mr. Keene. Your name is cleared. Mr. Vale's is not listed for private access until the board arrives. Preston's head turned slowly. Excuse me? The ballroom and reception are open to you. The council room is not. A glass clinked near the bar. Celia leaned over the counter. Clara, check again. Clara did. Her pen hovered above the list. Same result. Leonard Brooks coughed into his fist. Preston, it may be timing. I own timing, Preston said. He placed both gloved hands on the marble. Young lady, I've held meetings in that room since before you knew the staff entrance. Clara kept the binder open. Tonight, I have to follow the current list. Lists are written by people. Yes. And people correct mistakes. They do. Martin moved closer. His cologne cut through the polish. Clara, use discretion. She glanced at the page. Discretion doesn't add a missing name. Page inhaled sharply at the second terminal. Andre stood near the doors with Preston's wet umbrella in his hand, water dripping onto his shoe. Preston smiled at the witnesses. Martin, is your receptionist always this literal? No one answered. A woman near the fountain raised her phone, then lowered it when Celia looked over. Clara capped her pen. The click sounded too small for the room. I can call the board liaison, she said. If they approve access, I'll issue the badges. Preston leaned closer. You can call whoever makes you feel important, but I'm telling you how this evening works. Martin murmured, Clara. She reached toward the phone. Preston's ring tapped the marble once. Don't. Her hand stopped above the receiver. The lobby seemed to shrink around the desk. Warm lights, cold doors, wet leather, the fountain repeating itself behind everyone's silence. Clara folded the authorization list and slid it beside the phone. Then we wait for someone authorized to change it, she said. For the first time that night, Preston Vale stopped smiling. Celia Ward stepped between Preston Vale and the desk, as if her smile could cover the crack in the marble. Mr. Vale, please, she said. Your guests are waiting. My guests are watching, Preston replied. They were. People pretended to study flowers, menus, elevator lights. The violinist began again, but the bow trembled over one thin note. Ruth Bell stood beside the fountain with her towel cart. One wheel gave a tired squeak. Clara heard it because no one else spoke. Martin lowered his voice. Clara, this is not the moment. It became the moment when access was requested. Preston laughed. She thinks procedure makes her part of the room. A few guests smiled into their glasses. Leonard Brooks looked down at his shoes. Celia's smile hardened. Perhaps you misunderstood the tone expected tonight. I understood the list. The list, Preston said, is more powerful than every person who paid to keep this place alive? Martin gave Celia a quick nod. She stepped closer, perfume sharp over lemon polish. Sweetheart, Celia said, your job is to make the evening easier. You are behind the desk for a reason. Paige's fingers curled around her keyboard. Clara looked at Celia. Please don't call me that. The words were calm. That made them heavier. Preston smiled. Oh, Martin, you hired one with principles. The laughter spread. Someone whispered, just give him the room. Ruth's cart squeaked again. Clara kept her shoulders still. The locket beneath her collar felt warm. Martin placed a hand on the counter. Ms. Hayes, print temporary access for Mr. Vale. I can't. You can. I won't create a record that says authorization existed when it didn't. Celia let out a thin breath. Do you hear yourself? Preston leaned over the marble. A receptionist doesn't belong in the room where decisions are made, Andre's umbrella slipped from his hand and struck the brass stand. Paige looked at Clara, then looked away. Ruth stared down at her towels. No one corrected him. Clara aligned the guest list with its leather corner. "You may wait in the ballroom," she said. "I'll notify you when your status changes." Preston laughed. "My status." Did everyone hear that? Phones appeared now, half hidden. Celia snapped, "Respect guest privacy." A server froze with a tray. One glass trembled until a bubble slid over the rim. Martin stepped behind Clara's chair. "Stand down. I'm doing my job." "You're confusing your job with authority." "Authority is written down for a reason." Preston's smile thinned. "Martin, remove her from the desk." Paige whispered, "Mr. Keene?" Not another word. The fountain continued its black water spill. Ruth's hands tightened on the cart handle. Clara saw the older woman's eyes lift, then fall. That small surrender hurt more than Preston's laughter. Clara reached for the phone. "I'll call the board liaison." Martin's hand came down over the receiver. Plastic against skin. Final. Celia glanced at the ballroom doors. "We are going to fix this privately." Preston adjusted his red scarf. "Good. Teach her the difference between service and importance." Clara's hand stayed beside Martin's on the phone. Cold marble under her wrist. Ruth's cartwheel gave one more squeak. Paige Larkin's phone lay face down beside the second terminal, half hidden under valet envelopes. She had not meant to record anything. At 7:11 p.m., she had opened the camera to send her sister a clip of the ballroom flowers. Then Preston's voice cut across the lobby. Now the screen glowed against the marble. Martin Keene noticed it. "What is that?" Paige pulled her hand back. "Nothing." "Show me." Celia turned from the ballroom doors. "Paige." The young woman picked up the phone, but her fingers missed the side button. Clara did not reach for it. She only looked at Paige, steady. "It was just the lobby," Paige said. Martin came around the desk. "This is a private event." "It's my phone." "It is a recording made on hotel property during investor proceedings." His voice stayed soft enough for guests to pretend they were not listening. "Delete it." Preston watched from the guest side. This is what happens when staff believe they are the story. Paige's thumb hovered over the screen. The thumbnail showed Preston leaning over the desk. Celia leaned close, her perfume mixed with champagne and wet wool. "Paige, don't make this larger than it is." Clara's eyes moved to the black dome above the front desk. "Security camera, too." Martin followed the glance. "Those feeds are reviewed by management." "Then review them," Clara said. That was not an invitation. A guest near the fountain raised his phone higher. Celia snapped at a server. "Close the side doors." The server crossed the rug. The violinist stopped mid-measure. Martin held out his hand. "Paige," she swallowed. "I can delete it." "You will delete it." Clara said, "No one here should be forced to erase a record of what happened." Preston gave a low laugh. "A record? Of me asking for a room?" Of what followed. Martin's hand stayed open. "Phone?" Paige looked at Clara once. Then she tapped the screen. The tiny trash icon appeared. Her thumb shook above it. "Do it," Celia whispered. Paige pressed delete. The thumbnail vanished, leaving only the wallpaper of a beach at sunrise. Paige lowered the phone like a tray of dishes. "Thank you," Martin said. "Now return to your station." Ruth Bell's towel cart stood by the fountain, unmoving. Andre still held Preston's umbrella. Leonard Brooks adjusted his cuff, then stopped when he saw Clara watching him. Preston leaned toward Clara. The evening improves when people remember their position. Clara's face did not change. Deleted from the phone isn't always gone. Martin's eyes sharpened. Paige's breath caught. Celia looked up at the black camera dome. Victor should pull the lobby feed. No, Martin said too quickly. That single word landed wrong. Clara noticed. So did Paige. Martin corrected himself. Not during the event. We do not disrupt operations for drama. Preston stepped back. I want the room, Martin. You'll have it, Martin said. He turned to Clara. Print the temporary badges. Clara placed both hands flat on the counter. The marble cooled her palms. I can't. Martin's voice lost its polish. Then you leave me no choice. Behind him, the red light on Clara's terminal blinked once, and the authorization screen refreshed without anyone touching the keyboard. The authorization screen refreshed, then locked itself. A gray box covered Clara's terminal. Access denied. For 3 seconds, no one spoke. The lobby kept pretending to breathe. Fountain water, low music from the ballroom, a cartwheel settling into the carpet. Clara's hands stayed on the marble until the cold reached her wrists. Martin Keene looked at the message and gave a small nod. There, he said. Your access has been suspended. Paige leaned toward her monitor. Mine still works. Martin turned his head. Paige, if you want tomorrow's schedule, do not test that sentence. Paige sat back. Preston Vale brushed lint from his sleeve. This has become tedious. It will be handled, Martin said. Clara looked at him. Who suspended it? Management. Which manager? The one responsible for keeping this hotel from becoming a stage. Celia Ward crossed behind the desk and lifted the authorization binder. Clara's fingers closed over its edge. Celia smiled without warmth. Let go. This is a controlled access record. It is hotel property. So am I tonight? Clara asked. Near the fountain, Leonard Brooks looked down at his glass. Martin stepped closer. Victor. Victor Hale appeared from the side corridor in a dark suit with a security earpiece. He was 45, square-jawed, with tired eyes and a habit of touching his cuff before he spoke. Yes, Mr. Keene? Escort Miss Hayes to service room B. Victor glanced at Clara. For what reason? Failure to comply during a private investor event. Preston gave the lobby an amused look. Now we are making progress. Ruth's towel cart squeaked by the fountain. Clara turned. Ruth did not move forward, but one hand lifted from the handle, then fell back. Clara released the binder. Victor came around the desk. Miss Hayes. I'll walk. I know. That answer made Martin look at him. Clara reached beneath the keyboard for the white envelope Naomi had left. Her fingers touched only the smooth underside of the counter. It was gone. She did not search twice. Martin watched her notice. Looking for something? No. Clara stepped from behind the desk. Guests parted, but not enough to seem guilty. A woman lowered her phone into her purse. A server kept holding a tray, wrist trembling. Andre stood near the brass umbrella stand. Miss Hayes, Andre said. Clara paused long enough to meet his eyes. Stay at your post. His mouth closed. Martin followed 2 steps behind. Good advice. Everyone should. As they passed the fountain, Ruth shifted her cart a few inches, blocking Celia's path for half a beat. Move this, Celia snapped. Ruth moved it slowly. Victor led Clara into the service corridor. The music fell away behind the door, replaced by vending machines humming and pipes knocking in the ceiling. The air was colder. It smelled of bleach and old carpet. Are you going to lock me in? Clara asked. Victor did not look at her. I was told to secure the room. That wasn't my question. His cuff moved under his thumb. I'm not locking anything until I understand what I'm being asked to secure. Behind them, Martin entered with Celia and the binder. Preston remained in the lobby, framed by gold light and watching through the glass panel. Service room B had no windows. A metal table sat beneath a yellow ceiling light. A file cabinet stood open against the wall. On top of it lay a folder Clara had seen only once before. Staff complaints. Second quarter. Celia saw it too. Her hand tightened around the binder. Martin closed the door. The latch clicked, and the sound was much smaller than the silence that followed. The yellow ceiling light flickered once, then steadied over the metal table. Clara stood beside the chair without sitting. Service room B was colder than the lobby. The air tasted of bleach and old coffee. Behind the wall, a pipe knocked twice. Martin placed the authorization binder on the table. Celia shut the file cabinet drawer, but Clara had already seen the label. Staff complaints. Second quarter. Victor stayed by the door, his hand away from the lock. "Sit down," Martin said. "Am I being disciplined?" "You're being offered a quiet way out." Celia slid one printed page toward her. Resignation of shift responsibility. Voluntary breach of procedure. Failure to follow guest relations protocol. Clara read 3 lines. "No." "You leave through the service entrance," Martin said. "We pay you through Friday. No one needs to know you turned a gala into a personal performance." Celia tapped the signature line. "We say you left for personal reasons." "Like Lena and Marisol?" Celia's face tightened. Martin leaned over the table. "You are not in a position to question staffing." Clara folded the page once. "Then why bring me here with the complaint file?" The pipe knocked again. "That file is unrelated," Celia said. "Then leave it open." No one moved. Martin pulled the paper back. "Mr. Vale has lenders, vendors, board members. You have a badge and a temporary desk assignment." Clara's thumb found the locket beneath her collar. The small oval was worn at one edge. Her father had rubbed that same dent in a room that smelled of rain and antiseptic. "Don't sell what people built with their hands," he had told her. "Go where they can't dress up the truth." Celia noticed her hand. "A pause won't change policy." "No," Clara said. "Records do." Martin gave a short laugh. "Your records are gone." "Are they?" Victor's earpiece crackled. Ballroom music. A guest's laugh. Preston's voice asking for Martin. Martin turned. "Step outside." Victor did not move. "You asked me to secure the room." "With her inside?" "I'll stay," Victor said. For the first time, Martin seemed to remember another person could refuse. Clara laid the folded page flat. "If I sign this, what happens to Ruth? Andre? Paige?" Martin spread his hands. "Nothing happens to people who do their jobs." The sentence stayed under the yellow light. Victor looked away. Celia gathered the page. "You are not a martyr. You mistook a uniform for a platform." Clara's throat tightened. Her voice did not. "My father believed uniforms were promises." Martin's eyes narrowed. "Your father is not relevant." For a moment, the room lost its edges. Clara closed her fingers around the locket until the hinge pressed into her skin. She saw the founder's portrait in the lobby. She heard her father in his final week, asking her not to inherit a building without first learning who was afraid inside it. She almost sat down, almost took the pen, almost made the night small enough to survive. Then a strip of red light blinked beneath the door from the corridor phone. Once, twice. Victor saw it too. Martin pushed the pen toward her. "Last chance." Clara looked at the unsigned page, then at the closed cabinet. "No," she said. The corridor phone began to ring. The corridor phone rang a second time before anyone reached for the door. Martin's hand stopped above the pen. Celia's eyes moved to the red strip under the frame. Victor opened the door wide enough for the sound. Sharp, official, impossible to bury under ballroom music. "I'll get it," Martin said. Victor stayed in the gap. "It's the service line." "I know what line it is." Clara did not move from the metal table. The unsigned paper lay between them, one corner lifting in the draft. Behind the wall, an old pipe knocked once. Martin stepped into the corridor and lifted the receiver. "Keen?" His back stiffened. Celia's headset crackled. "Martin?" He covered the mouthpiece. "Stay here." But the door had not closed. Clara heard a woman's voice, calm and fast. "This is Naomi Price. Why was Clara Hayes' access blocked?" Martin lowered his voice. "Ms. Price, now is not—" "Answer the question." "A temporary operational restriction," Martin said. "Was it filed through compliance?" "Legal can review it tomorrow." "Legal is reviewing it now." 6 floors above, Naomi Price stood in a small office with her coat still on. Her laptop showed a red alert. Audit credential lockout. She called Clara first. No answer. She called the front desk. No answer. Then an email arrived from Paige Larkin with no subject line. I deleted it, but it's saved here. Naomi clicked the attachment. The video opened on lobby flowers. Then Preston Vale's voice cut in. "A receptionist doesn't belong in the room where decisions are made." Naomi watched it twice. The second time, she noticed Ruth's towel cart, Andre holding the umbrella, and Martin's hand covering the receiver. Now Martin said, "Whatever Ms. Larkin sent you was unauthorized." "Interesting," Naomi replied. "You knew her name before I mentioned a recording." Inside Service Room B, Celia understood the mistake. Naomi continued, "Put Clara on the line. She is unavailable. Is she off property? No. Is she free to leave? That is not the language I would use. Then choose better language." Victor opened the door wider. Martin lowered the receiver. "Victor, close that door." Victor did not. Clara stepped into the corridor. The floor was cold through her shoes. It smelled of bleach, old carpet, and machine coffee. "Miss Price," Clara said. A breath came through the line. "Clara, are you alone?" "No." "Are you being asked to sign anything?" Martin stared at her. Clara looked back at the folded resignation paper under the yellow light. "Yes." Naomi's tone changed by half a degree. "Do not sign. Paige recovered a video. I have it. And your lockout triggered the trustee protocol." Celia gripped her headset wire. That protocol expired. Naomi heard enough. It did not. From the lobby side, a door opened. Music spilled into the corridor, followed by Preston's voice. "Martin, why am I still outside my own meeting?" Naomi answered before Martin could. "Because it was never yours yet." The receiver clicked as another line joined. A new voice entered, older and steady. "This is Evelyn Cross. I need Clara Hayes returned to the front desk, on speaker, immediately." Martin's face lost all color except the red reflection blinking from the corridor phone. Victor Hale walked Clara back through the service corridor without touching her arm. The violin had stopped before she saw the lobby. The fountain kept spilling water over black stone, every drop landing alone. Preston Vale stood near the ballroom doors with his red scarf loosened. "Martin, explain." Martin followed Clara, holding the corridor receiver as if it had become heavy. Celia moved beside him. "Front desk," Evelyn Cross said through the line. "Speaker." Clara crossed the rug. Guests shifted back. Leonard Brooks watched the floor. Ruth stood beside the towel cart, both hands on the handle. Paige was at the second terminal, white-faced and still. Clara, she whispered. You did what you could, Clara said. Martin snapped. No private conversations. Preston laughed. Why are legal and the board interrupting my evening? Naomi's voice came from the corridor phone. Chairwoman, Mr. Keene is refusing to restore full access. I heard enough, Evelyn replied. Clara reached the desk. The red lamp blinked beside the authorization binder. The sticky note was gone, but the keyboard still hid the empty place where it had been. Martin set the receiver down hard. Ms. Cross, this has been exaggerated. A temporary employee created confusion during an investor event. Do not call her temporary, Evelyn said. The words came through before Clara pressed speaker, clear enough for guests to hear. Celia closed her eyes. Clara touched the speaker button. The red light turned solid. Ms. Cross, Preston said. This is Preston Vale. I assume there is some misunderstanding. There is, Evelyn said. But not the one you think. Martin tried to smile. Evelyn, perhaps we should move this to a private line. No. A server near the bar lowered his tray. Andre held the wet umbrella. Ruth's cartwheel squeaked as she eased closer. Evelyn continued. Clara, confirm you can hear me. I can hear you. Were you removed from your post after refusing unauthorized access? Yes. Were you asked to sign a resignation or fault statement? Martin's breath scraped in his throat. Clara looked at the marble. The cold shine held her reflection in pieces. Yes. Preston waved a hand. This is absurd. She blocked a strategic partner from a room I've used for years. Past access does not equal current authority, Evelyn said. That sounds like legal theater. No, it sounds like the beginning of an audit you were not meant to influence. The lobby tightened around the word. Audit, Leonard Brooks said softly. Martin stepped closer. Chairwoman, I strongly advise. You are suspended from directing staff for the remainder of this call. Celia's headset crackled. She did not answer it. Preston's smile returned, but it sat wrong. Who, exactly, is directing them? The fountain seemed louder. Evelyn said, Clara Hayes will. Every eye turned toward Clara, not past her, not through her, toward. She placed the authorization binder in front of the phone and opened it to the page with Preston's missing clearance. Mr. Vale, she said, you may wait in the ballroom until the board arrives. Preston stared at her. Then the board line clicked again, and Evelyn said, Keep the speaker on. This concerns the room. Evelyn Cross did not raise her voice. That was what made the lobby lean closer. Before anyone speaks, she said through the speaker, the board line is being recorded for governance review. Preston Vale's smile faded. He looked at the phone, then at Clara, as if the receiver had betrayed him. Martin Keene stood behind the desk with his hands at his suit seams. Celia Ward took one step toward the ballroom, then stopped when Naomi's voice came through. Chairwoman, the recovered video and access log are time-stamped. Thank you, Ms. Price, Evelyn said. Clara, state your legal name. The fountain kept pouring. A champagne flute touched a tray with a nervous sound. Clara's fingers rested beside the authorization binder. The marble was cold, but it no longer felt like it was pushing her away. Clara Elise Hayes. Ruth Bell's head lifted. Andre looked from Clara to the founder's portrait above the staircase. The painted man had Clara's same narrow eyes. Preston noticed it too late. Evelyn continued. For the record, Clara Elise Hayes is serving tonight under a temporary front office assignment as part of an authorized internal culture and compliance audit. A murmur moved through the lobby. Martin whispered, No. She is also the designated trustee representative for the Hayes estate, pending final probate confirmation, with authority over staff retaliation, investor interference, and access control. Preston's hand moved to the counter. His gold ring touched the marble where Clara's name tag lay reflected. Then, slowly, he removed it. Celia's lips parted. "Hayes estate?" Naomi said. "The founder's estate." Ruth covered her mouth with a towel. The room changed in pieces. First, the guests stopped pretending not to listen. Then the servers stopped pretending to pass through. Then Paige stood tall enough that her badge caught the chandelier light. Preston cleared his throat. "Evelyn, I was not informed. You were not entitled to be informed. I am the lead investor in the expansion. You are a proposed expansion partner. Tonight, you requested restricted access, mocked a staff member enforcing procedure, and remained present while management attempted to remove and silence that staff member." Martin reached for the phone. "That is not a fair characterization." Clara moved the receiver an inch farther from his hand. Everyone saw it. Evelyn said, "Mr. Keene, step back." He looked around the lobby. No one rescued him with a laugh. Victor Hale came from the service corridor. "Mr. Keene?" Martin stepped back. Preston adjusted his scarf. "Clara, if I had known who you were?" Clara looked at him for the first time since the call began. "That was the point." The sentence left no room for a second version. Celia's headset crackled again. She removed it and held it as if it belonged to someone else. Evelyn's voice softened only for Clara. "Continue in the lobby or move to the council room?" Clara looked at Ruth's towel cart, Andre's wet umbrella, Paige's shaking hands, and Preston, who had laughed because he thought no one in uniform could change the room. "In the lobby," Clara said. "They heard the first part here." The fountain went on pouring. Evelyn answered, "Then we finish it there." The council room smelled of coffee left under a burner too long. At 8:36 a.m., winter light pressed through the tall windows. Clara sat at one end with the authorization binder beside her. Naomi Price stood near the screen. Daniel Mercer set a recorder between two water glasses. "Before we begin," Daniel said, "this is not a disciplinary meeting for staff." Ruth Bell sat nearest the door. A handkerchief lay in her lap. Andre Mills sat beside Paige, his badge fixed with a clasp. Martin Keene entered with Celia Ward. Neither looked toward the portrait. Daniel touched the recorder. A red dot blinked. "We're here to establish what happened last night and whether this happened before." Martin folded his hands. "Then I hope we'll avoid theater." Naomi clicked the remote. The lobby video filled the screen. Flowers first. Music. Then Preston's voice. "A receptionist doesn't belong in the room where decisions are made." No one breathed loudly enough to hide the words. Naomi paused the frame on Martin's hand, covering the phone. "Why did you prevent Ms. Hayes from calling the board liaison?" "The lobby was unstable," Martin said. "I acted to protect guest experience." Daniel wrote one line. "By blocking a compliance call? I didn't know that's what it was." Naomi changed slides. Clara's credentials were suspended at 7:18 p.m. Martin's override showed 7:17 p.m. Daniel looked up. "You blocked her before the message appeared." Celia spoke quickly. "We were managing a guest escalation." Naomi placed 3 printed complaints on the table. Filed in April, May, and June. All mention Mr. Vale's events. All were removed from the folder. Ruth's cloth twisted in her fingers. Daniel turned to her. "Only what you are comfortable saying." Ruth stared at the table seam. "Lena cried in the linen room after the spring dinner. Marisol was told not to come back if she wrote anything down. I put their notes in the folder because policy said to. She pressed the cloth to her palm. Next morning, page 2 was gone. Martin said, "Rumors are not evidence." Andre's chair scraped. "They were people." Paige unlocked her phone. "I emailed Naomi because Mr. Keene made me delete the video." Celia looked at the screen. "You're young. You don't understand investor pressure." Paige lowered the phone. "I understand being scared of losing rent." The room went still around that. Clara spoke. "Who told Lena and Marisol they were released last night?" Celia touched the bare place where her headset usually sat. "I did." "On whose instruction?" Celia glanced at Martin. Daniel wrote without looking up. Martin leaned back. "Temporary staffing adjustments are routine." Naomi clicked again. A payroll export appeared. Reduced hours after complaints. Shift removals after objections. One transfer request never processed. Ruth's handkerchief unfolded like a small white flag. Daniel faced Martin. "This is no longer about one lobby event." Naomi placed the missing complaint page on the table. Victor found this behind the cabinet drawer in service room B. Clara looked at the names written by people who had believed a policy meant protection. Daniel slid the sleeve toward Martin. "Let's begin again," he said. "Who ordered this removed?" The unsigned contract sat closed in the center of the council room. Preston Vale had placed it there himself, as if the folder might still remind everyone what he had come to buy. Its corners caught the winter light. No pen lay beside it now. Daniel Mercer read from the complaint page. Shift reductions after reports. Removal from preferred assignments. One employee told not to return after refusing a private service request. Martin Keene's face had gone flat. "Those are interpretations." "They are dates," Naomi said. Celia Ward held a paper cup she had not touched. Without her headset, she looked startled by her own breathing. Preston leaned back. "This is internal staffing. My expansion proposal should not be held hostage to housekeeping grievances." Ruth Bell's handkerchief tightened in her lap. Clara turned one page of the binder. "They are not grievances when management uses schedules to punish people for speaking." Preston looked at her. "You're emotional." "No," Clara said. "I'm accurate." Evelyn Cross appeared by video. "The emergency committee has reviewed the evidence." Martin sat forward. "Chairwoman, with respect, your administrative access is suspended pending investigation." Celia turned toward him. For the first time, she did not look for instructions. Evelyn continued. "Mr. Vale, the expansion agreement will not proceed today." Preston's smile returned. "You are making a financial mistake." "Possibly," Evelyn said, "but it will be ours, not one forced by fear inside our own building." Preston placed his palm on the folder. "Grayhaven needs capital. Sentiment doesn't renovate rooms." "Neither does contempt," Clara said. He stared at her. "Principles are expensive." Clara touched the locket beneath her blouse. "My father already knew that." Ruth looked down. Celia's eyes moved toward the founder's portrait. Preston exhaled. "If I offended you last night, I regret the misunderstanding." Clara looked at him. "You regret the recording." Celia set down the cup. "I called it standards." Everyone turned. Her voice came out dry. "Every time someone cried in a stairwell or asked why their hours changed, I called it standards, presentation, guest confidence." She looked at Ruth. "I thought if I kept the machine clean, I wasn't responsible for what it crushed." Martin snapped. "Celia!" "No." The word surprised her. "No, Martin." Ruth simply stopped twisting the cloth. Preston stood. The chair legs dragged over carpet. I won't sit here while a hotel receptionist lectures me on governance." Clara did not stand. Evelyn's voice came from the screen. "Then you may leave as a guest, Mr. Vale, not as a partner." His hand went to the contract folder. Instead of taking it, he left it closed. At the door, he turned. "You think this ends well because a room is impressed today?" Clara looked at the names on the page. "I think today is the first time the room had to listen." Preston walked out. Martin remained seated, watching the contract. Daniel slid a notice across the table to him. "Administrative leave, effective immediately." Martin did not touch it. Outside the open door, Clara heard the lobby fountain and the faint squeak of Ruth's cart being rolled away by someone else. Clara found the sign taped to the service entrance at 9:12. Staff meeting. Mandatory. The letters curled against painted metal. Behind the door, the hallway smelled of bread, bleach, and wet coats drying on hooks. Ruth stood near the linen shelves with Andre and Paige. No one sat, though folding chairs lined the wall. Victor waited beside the time clock. Celia came in last, wearing a black jacket. Clara carried one folded sheet. Andre looked at it. "Is that the new schedule?" "No," Clara said. "Schedules come after this." Ruth's eyes moved to the empty wall beside the clock. "After what?" Clara unfolded the page and pressed it flat. Staff dignity policy. People read slowly when they expected disappointment. Paige stepped closer. "That's official?" "It will be posted at every staff entrance by noon." A banquet server folded her arms. "Posted things disappear." "Not this one," Naomi Price said from the doorway. She entered with Daniel Mercer and a box of clear frames. Clara pointed to the first line. "No staff member can be removed for enforcing access rules. No employee can be ordered to delete a record of a workplace incident. Complaints go to an independent line outside management. Witnesses are protected from schedule cuts, transfers, and quiet punishments." Victor lowered his eyes. Celia stared at the page. "And managers? Outside review, training, quarterly audits. Retaliation triggers automatic board notification." Ruth's hand rose, then dropped. "Board notification?" "Yes." Andre gave a small laugh with no joy in it. "Yesterday that would have sounded made up." "Yesterday is why it's written," Clara said. Celia took one step forward. "I need to say something." The hallway tightened. A coffee machine hissed. Celia looked at Ruth first. "I can't fix what I did by naming it. Lena, Marisol, every person I told to smile through something ugly, I helped make it normal." Ruth did not comfort her. Celia nodded. "I'll cooperate with the review. If I'm removed, I won't fight it." Clara taped the bottom corner. "Accountability is not the same as repair." "No," Celia said. "It isn't." Paige stepped beside Clara. "Can I keep working with Naomi?" Naomi smiled faintly. "If you still want to learn why paperwork matters." Paige's shoulders lifted. "I do." Andre touched his badge. "And us? We just go back to carrying bags?" Clara turned to him. "You become the first staff mentor for guest escalation. Paid hours. Authority to pause service and call the line." He stared as if the words needed a second language. Ruth whispered, "He'll be good." Andre looked down. "I'll try." "No," Ruth said. "You'll be good." A chair scraped as someone finally sat. Victor picked up one plastic frame and handed it to Ruth. "For the linen entrance." Ruth took it. Her fingers covered the word dignity. The policy was crooked by a fraction. Paige smoothed the tape. From beyond the service door came the lobby fountain, steady as it had been through all of it. "This does not erase last night," Clara said. "It only makes tomorrow harder to hide." No one applauded. Ruth lifted the framed policy against her chest, and for the first time since Clara arrived at Grayhaven, the service entrance stayed open behind them. At 7:05 a.m., 3 weeks after the gala, the Grayhaven Grand opened its front doors without anyone rushing to look busy. The lobby smelled of orange peel, coffee, and winter rain drying from wool coats. Morning light moved across the marble in long, pale strips. Clara Hayes stood behind the same desk where Preston Vale had laughed, but her black uniform was gone. She wore a navy suit, simple shoes, and the silver locket at her throat where everyone could see it. Paige Larkin came from the office with a folder pressed to her chest. Naomi said the first training group starts Monday. Do you still want to sit in? Paige nodded. I want to understand every line before someone else tries to hide behind one. Clara almost smiled. Good. Near the elevators, Andre Mills showed 2 new bell attendants how to handle an angry guest without lowering their eyes. He did not speak loudly. He did not need to. You pause service, Andre told them, holding his badge straight with the new clasp. You call the line. You write what happened before anyone tells you what you remember. One trainee asked, And if management gets mad? Andre looked across the lobby at Clara. Then management learns the policy too. Ruth Bell came through the service door in a pressed gray blazer. Her towel cart was gone. In her hands was a framed copy of the new staff policy for the housekeeping office. You're early, Clara said. Ruth touched the frame. Only by 18 minutes. They both heard the echo from another night and let it sit between them. The investigation report was released that afternoon without speeches. Martin Keene was removed from his position and barred from supervising staff in any property connected to the group. Celia Ward kept her job only after accepting a reduced role, outside training, and a full public account to the employees she had dismissed. She did not ask Ruth for forgiveness in front of a room. She sent Lena and Marisol written apologies first, then waited when neither answered. Preston Vale withdrew from the expansion bid 2 days before the board vote. No one clapped when the news arrived. The contract stayed archived, unsigned, in a box Naomi labeled with the date and one word, reviewed. By noon, the independent complaint line had already received 4 calls. Not all were dramatic. One was about hours changed without notice. One was about a guest who used names as if they were tips. One was silent for 11 seconds before someone whispered, I didn't know this was real. Clara listened to that recording once. Then she approved 2 more compliance staff. At 4:20 p.m., she returned to the front desk while Paige handled a check-in alone. A guest grew impatient over a room delay and snapped his fingers. Paige did not flinch. Sir, she said, I can help you faster if you speak to me directly. The man blinked, surprised by the boundary. Behind him, Andre stopped walking. Ruth paused near the flower table. Clara kept her hands folded. The guest lowered his hand. Sorry, long flight. Paige entered the room number. I understand. Clara looked toward the fountain. It poured over black stone the way it had that night, but the sound no longer seemed to cover anything. Before she left, she unclasped the silver locket and laid it on the marble counter. For 1 minute, it rested where Martin's hand had blocked the phone, where Preston's ring had tapped, where her own reflection had once looked divided by light. Ruth came beside her. You taking it off? No, Clara said, just letting it see the place. Inside the locket was a tiny photograph of her father, younger than she remembered him, standing in front of the hotel before its first winter opening. Ruth looked at the portrait above the staircase, then at the small photograph. He would have liked the open door. Clara touched the locket once. he would have asked what took so long. Ruth laughed softly, and the sound did not hide. Clara closed the locket, fastened it again, and stepped away from the desk. Behind her, Paige answered the phone on the first ring. The red light became part of the morning. If this story stayed with you, share in the comments whether you have ever seen someone quiet stand firm when a room expected them to stay small. Sometimes, dignity is protected by one calm voice, one saved record, one person who refuses to look away. Share this story with someone who believes respect should never depend on a job title, a uniform, or the money someone brings into a room. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet strength, second chances, and the kind of change that reaches beyond one person and becomes protection for many. And if you know someone who needs a reminder that being underestimated is not the same as being powerless, send this to them today.